I've already done an episode on the Monkees, but one of the viewers asked me, why don't you look at the pre-Monkee and post-Monkee career of Mike Nesmith? Because Michael was much more than just wool hat of the Monkees. He was a talented singer, songwriter, guitar player, record producer, movie producer, and video visionaire, and an incredible businessman. So are you ready to fly down to Reno? No, not Reno, Rio de Janeiro. Are you ready to drop the needle on Mike Nesmith? Then let's drop it. Michael Nesmith was born in 1942 in Houston, Texas, and his mother was a secretary who invented a typewriter correction fluid, which became known as liquid paper. Michael Nesmith enlisted in the Air Force before he graduated high school. In the Air Force, he trained to be an aircraft mechanic. And while he was in the Air Force, he got his GED, so he could actually say he had a high school education. And after he got out of the Air Force, he picked up for the first time a guitar and taught himself how to play. He started singing folk songs in clubs around Texas, and in 1963, he decides to move to Los Angeles and try his hand there, where he actually became an MC at the Troubadour for the Hootenanny Nights. And then in 1965, he auditioned for a television show which became The Monkees. Now, the Monkees TV series only lasted for 3 seasons. But if you want to know more about the Monkees, then check out the episode that I did previously about the Monkees. While he was still in the Monkees, Mike Nesmith releases his first solo album. It's called The Wichita Train Whistle Sings, and it's an instrumental album. The session musicians are part of the group known as the Wrecking Crew, including the great Hal Blaine on drums and Red Rhodes on pedal steel guitar. Red and Mike would form a long musical friendship. Most of the songs in this album were later recorded by the Monkees with lyrics, but here you hear them for the first time as purely instrumental tracks. I like 9 Times Blue, Tapioca Tundra, Don't Call on Me, Papa Jean's Blues, You Just May Be the One, and You Told Me. But even though it was at a height of the Monkees' popularity, this album only reached 114 on the charts. After the Monkees TV show ended, Mike Nesmith decides to pursue a solo career and releases what some people refer to as his first solo album, but really Wichita Train Whistle Sings is the first, so this is kind of the second, but it's the first to be credited to Michael Nesmith and the First National Band, and it is called Magnetic South, and it establishes Michael Nesmith as a country rock artist. Besides Michael, the band includes Red Rose, John Ware, and John London. I remember I was working in Los Angeles as a disc jockey, and there was a record promotion guy who came up with an idea that it would be a great thing to bring disc jockeys together on a Saturday afternoon, like once a month, at some of the recording studios around town and introduce these disc jockeys to an up-and-coming act. And I was fortunate to get invited to a number of those. Well, one of them was at RCA Records, and we were told we were going to see the new band that Michael Nesmith had put together. Well, I must admit that when I went, I was expecting to see Nesmith with a bunch of musicians that kind of were doing a continuation of the Monkees, bubblegum pop sound. I couldn't have been more wrong. Mike Nesmith walks into the studio wearing this oversized cowboy hat and this sequin cowboy suit made by the Hollywood legend Nudie, and the band starts to play country rock. I was pretty stunned. The album contains Calico Girlfriend, 9 Times Blue from the Wichita Train Whistle Sings album, but now with vocals, Hollywood, his hit Joanne, and a remake of Beyond the Blue Horizon. The album sold okay, and Nesmith and the band played a number of clubs around LA at this time. Later that same year in 1970, Michael Nesmith and the First National Band released their second album, and it's called Loose Salute. Songs include Silver Moon, their cover of I Fall to Pieces, Conversations, the hit Listen to the Band, and Lady of the Valley. The album did okay, but it didn't sell as well as the first one. Then in 1971, Michael and the First National Band released their third and final album called Nevada Fighter, and this contains one of my favorite Mike Nesmith songs called The Grand Ennui. I also like Nevada Fighter, their cover of Tumbling Tumbleweeds, I Looked Away, the Derek and the Dominoes song, and their cover of Harry Nilsson's Rainmaker. But again, the album didn't really sell. For his next album, he disbands the First National Band and creates the Second National Band, which has got himself and Red Rhodes as the only two remaining members. And in typical Mike Nesmith humor, he titles this album Tantamount to Treason, Volume 1. But of course, there was never ever a Volume 2. I like Mama Rocker, Lazy Lady, You Are My One, and She Thinks I Still Care. Mike Nesmith stays busy, and in 1972 he releases his album called And the Hits Just Keep Coming. And again, this is part of Nesmith's humor, because the album is titled that because the record company said that he needed to create more hits. I like the lead off Tomorrow and Me, Lady Love, The Candidate, and Roll with the Flow. This album also contains his recording of a song that he wrote in 1967, but he gave it away to the Stone Ponies, whose lead singer was Linda Ronstadt. And the song is Different Drum. And it's quite refreshing to hear Michael Nesmith sing his own song. Another year, 1973, and another Mike Nesmith album, and this one is called Pretty Much Your Standard Ranch Stash. And this is the first time that Michael Nesmith refers to himself as Papa Ness, a nickname that he would use throughout the rest of his career. This was his final album for RCA, and it didn't chart. I like some of Shelley's Blues, Winona, and The Back Porch in a Fruit Jar Full of Iced Tea. After leaving RCA, Mike Nesmith decides to form his own media company called Pacific Arts. And the first album to be released under that company is an album called The Prison, which was actually released with a book at the same time. And the idea was you were to listen to the album while you were reading the stories in the book. In 1977, Mike Nesmith releases an album called From a Radio Engine to a Photon Wing. And this includes the great song, which I referenced in the introduction, which is called Rio, where he says, I might fly down to Rio, I just might. I probably won't fly down to Rio, but I just might. And then it has that line about Reno, no, not Reno, Rio, Rio de Janeiro. I love that song. And Mike Nesmith decides to promote this song with a music video. So he teams up with a video director called Bill Deere, and they make a really incredible video on Rio. And if you haven't seen it, you should check it out. I'll bet it's lurking somewhere here on YouTube. With the success of the music video, Nesmith and Deere come up with the idea of making a TV series called Pop Clips, which is kind of like music videos and some comic elements as well. And they do it for Nickelodeon. That same year, he releases Infinite Rider on the Big Dogma. I like this record. Check out Dance, Magic, Flying, and then my favorite song on the record, Cruisin', which is also known as Lucy and Ramona and Sunset Sam. In 1980, Nickelodeon sells Pop Clips to Time Warner. And the executives at Time Warner look at it and go, this is an idea that we've been thinking about, making a music television network. And that's how MTV was born. And Mike Nesmith claimed for years that he was the father of MTV. In 1981, he teams again with Bill Deere, and they decide they'll make a long-form program which has comedy sketches and music videos in it, and they call it Elephant Parts. And it's released to home video at that time, which was VHS and Betamax tapes. And oh yes, and Laserdiscs, of which I still have quite a few. This is an incredible video program, and if you get a chance, search it out and take a look at it. It is a lot of fun. Some of the best comedy bits are Elvis Drugs, The Great Neighborhood Nuclear Superiority, and The Tragically Hip. The music videos are great. They include Magic, Cruising, which again is Lucy, Ramona, and Sunset Sam, and greatly shot on the Sunset Strip, Tonight, and Rio. Elephant Parts won the first Grammy in the music video category. Based on the success of Elephant Parts, he and Bill Deere decided to create a television series called Michael Nesmith in Television Parts. And it runs as a summer replacement on network TV and has 5 episodes. But Mike Nesmith wasn't just satisfied with writing music, singing, and doing music videos. He wanted to write books and produce a movie, which he did when his friend Bill Deere wanted to direct a movie called Time Rider. In 1992, he releases his first studio album since way back in 1979, and it's called The Garden. Then he also releases a soundtrack to Time Rider, and his last album was Raise in 2005. Over the years, he rejoined the Monkees and toured with them on and off, and in the last final days, he was on tour with Mickey Dolenz. Michael Nesmith died of heart failure in 2021 at the age of 78. After being in the Monkees, Michael Nesmith released 15 albums. He also wrote books, produced movies, created and starred in music videos, and, as he says, was the father of MTV. Once thought of as just a goofy kid in a wool hat on a TV series, Michael Nesmith proved to the world he was much, much more than that. A gifted singer, songwriter, guitar player, movie producer, book writer, television visionary. Papa Ness was a force of nature, and he will sorely be missed, but his music and his videos will live on. Now, as usual, I've created a Spotify playlist which will let you hear some of the songs that I've talked about in this episode. You can check it out at this link right here. In the meantime, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this, and let's all fly down to Rio. You know, we just might. Till next time, keep it rocking. If you like this episode, hit the like button, and you can also leave me a comment down below, and I'll respond to you. If you subscribe, we'll let you know when future episodes come out.